Welcome to another edition of That's a Wrap, the industry program dedicated to focusing on all aspects of the arts and entertainment industry, from the human perspective to the technical arena. We take a look at all things related to how the industry operates behind the scenes, keeping you in touch with the latest news, trends, and products. Visit us on the web at TAWIN.org. And now here is your host, Carlos Cruz.
Welcome back. We're here with Brian Dalton from Lazy Eye Pictures, and Brian is the mastermind behind the new pod episodes, I think you can call them, of Mr. Deity. Brian, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
It's a pleasure. Brian, just real quickly, can you please tell us a bit about your background?
Well, I've been doing graphic design mostly for the last 20 years, so this is a bit of a departure. That and music. I've been doing music since I was 10. I'm 41 now. I started making movies about 5 years ago. Actually, that's not true. My friends and I used to make all kinds of little 8mm films when we were, in our teens. The Adventures of Dog Man being one of my favorites. I got back into it about 5 years ago, made a feature film called Killing the Dream, won a grand jury award at a film festival and a directing award, and played all over the country and a little bit in Europe. And, I just wanted to do more of it. So that's where I'm at now. And now I've shifted almost completely over from the graphic design to video production.
Have you used a lot of your graphic design skills for your production work?
Yeah, I have, because you always need to market what you've shot. So I designed the Mr. Deity logo, and there's an aesthetic that kind of through pretty much everything I do, which is a little corporate because I spent so much time working with the Disney-owned stations up in L.A. and the Clear Channel stations in San Diego. So my look tends to be very clean and corporate, but I think that works for Mr. Deity because he's clean and corporate.
Exactly. I totally agree with you on that one. And not only that, I think that with the skills that you have with your corporate background, you know how to package your product. And I think that's very important when you're trying to produce something and show it out there to the world.
Right, correct. And we're just doing we're doing two things right now. Actually, we have a company who wants us to do a DVD with about 10 or 12 episodes and a lot of extras. So we're going to be packaging that up, but we're also making a package to take out to various meetings that we have going. So yeah, it always helps to have that background behind you. And working with marketing directors for 20 years. You pick up a little of that too, so it doesn't hurt.
Yeah, I do believe that that's one of the important things to have in your toolbox. But the main thing that attracted me to you was your Mr. Deity, and I found that just searching for something else like I normally do on the net, because we all do productive stuff on the internet, and I'm sure you can agree with me on that one.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Lots of productive stuff there.
Tons of productive stuff. But I found Mr. Deity, and my first thought was, what's this? I'm like, what's this? And then I saw just one of them. I think it was episode 4 or so. And I was totally amazed at how simple the podcast was, but yet how powerful the message that you had underlying on it. Now, without making our heads explode, and those who will watch the podcast will understand what I'm talking about, what inspired you to create this?
Well, there are two things. Number one, the origins of this go back to something I wrote just after the tsunami in 2004, where I was just writing a little musing about, why God would need to have natural disasters and whatnot that could wipe out 250,000 people in an instant. And I sent that out. It wasn't a Mr. Deity as we know it. It was just my own little, thoughts on the matter. But it had God talking to his assistant, who even back then I had named Larry, and they were figuring out what kind of evil they were going to allow in the universe. And so many of my friends saw it and said, "Oh, this is so good, you got to do something with this." And so I kind of let it lay for a little while, and then I tried to get actors involved. Couldn't get anyone to bite on taking the lead role. Some of them thought it was too edgy. Some of them thought they would be typecast. Some of them just didn't want to make the time commitment because I knew I wanted to do one every other week. And finally ended up playing the lead role myself out of, just pure frustration, not being able to get anyone else to do it. But the other thing we were looking to do is we are, the three of us are filmmakers, and Sean's, a working actor in Hollywood, Sean Jesse Jesus. And we, in trying to get money for our own projects, the question is always, well, who's in it? And everyone wants a name. And so we figured, well, what if we could get something up that was clever and funny and whatnot, and make a little bit of a name for ourselves. So there were, that was the twofold origin of Mr. Deity.
Well, I think when it comes to casting, you did it correct. You worked for yourself, playing the lead role, and I'm not sure that'll always work for every producer out there, but you just fit the part perfectly. And
well, good. I have great sympathy with Mr. Deity because as a creative person myself, I have many of the same flaws. Mr. Deity is a very creative guy, but he's not good with the follow-through, and he's not good with the details. And I suffer that myself. So I that's the way I feel. It's the way I feel about the universe as well. In terms of, it seems to me like, someone had a really good idea, they started it going, and then they just got frustrated with all the little minutia and just kind of let it spin off on its own. So,
but
yeah, I have a lot of sympathy with that
But
character.
the beauty of that is that everybody can relate to it, and it's not easy, I think, you can agree with me on it, when you create something, a character as powerful as that, that's well known.
Well, the thing is, it's, I think a lot of people have questions whether you believe or not. I mean, I have all kinds of believer friends, and I consider myself an agnostic. But whether you're a believer or not, you've got questions, and you wonder why this thing is the way it is. And to some of us, it seems pretty messed up. And it's hard to imagine that there's someone up there, all powerful, all knowing, all loving, who's in control of this thing. So that's just the basic, dilemma that we all.
Well, I hope episode 8 comes out pretty quickly, because
did that answer the question?
It did answer the question. Hello,
Hello?
can you hear me? Did we lose?
I've lost you.
Hold on a second. We haven't.
I can't hear anything you're saying. If you're
And
talking.
I can hear.
Call me right back.
We'll have to
Hello?
continue this.
All right.
Oh, I lost him. How nice. Well, we'll be right back on this one.
Okay.
So, as we were saying before, well, what's the end goal for Mr. Deity? Where would you like to see it go?
Well, we'd like to see Mr. Deity as a half-hour series on some gutsy network. Maybe not network, but someone like the HBOs or the Showtimes or the Comedy Centrals or maybe even FX. Something like that. The half-hour show is very different than what you're seeing now, but I think it would be better ultimately because I'm so limited. You mentioned how simple it is, and it's simple for a reason, and that is we have no budget. So we're making these things all on our own. Since I have a production company, I own all the equipment, so it's not money out of my pocket. Maybe $12.50 an episode or something for food. But there's a lot I can't do because we don't have a budget. We don't have a studio to shoot in or anything like this. It's just a whiteboard behind us and some lights and the camera. But boy, if we had a little bit of money and we could do some stuff, I got all kinds of ideas for what we could do, and I think it would ultimately be much more fun.
I think this is something that Comedy Central should probably pick up on, because this works, basically plays into what their schedule is like.
Of course, my dream is HBO because I love everything HBO does. I'm a huge fan of HBO, so I know that's shooting for the stars. But what the heck, right? As long as you're dreaming, why not?
You'll just probably have to make it just a little bit more edgy for HBO.
Well, exactly. I could do that. I could do that.
Well, I have to put a little Sopranos in there with the Tour de Hell.
Yeah, well, you know what? I actually have a Sopranos-esque style episode that I won't go into, but it's very Sopranos. So that would work perfectly on HBO.
We'll be waiting for that one exactly. So you have Mr. Deity, which is yourself. You have your assistant, which is Larry. You have that guy
Larry.
named Jesse. Oh, Jesus.
Jesse.
And then
Jesus.
there's Lucy. Can you tell us a little bit about the cast members?
Yeah, Jimbo Marshall, who plays Larry, is one of my best friends. He's an editor for a show that I also do a lot of shooting for, and he's a filmmaker as well. He's directed, and his major was actually film. So he has a good background in this, and I think he's terrific as Larry. And Sean Douglas is an actor who was in my first movie, and we have been friends ever since. He's just one of the best guys on the planet. Love him to death. And he works a lot. Actually, he's going to be on an episode of Without a Trace here soon. And then Lucy is perhaps my dearest friend on the planet. I've known her for 18 years. She is the person who encouraged me to get into this from the beginning, and has just been there the whole way through. So it's a bunch of people we've all known each other at least 6 or 7 years, and actually that's not true. I met Jimbo much later. I've known Jimbo for 4 years, but we all get along really well. And I think when we're here, the episode I'm cutting right now, for instance, is a 3. It's me and Jimbo and Sean, and we're going to have a lot of good fun outtakes. But when we get together, the three of us, really connect very well.
It shows.
So we have a lot of fun. Yeah, I think so.
You can tell a lot of these podcasts where they make their small little webisodes out there. A lot of the casting doesn't mix. You can tell that the people are just barely reading the lines, let alone they don't live their lines. They don't become their lines itself.
Right.
But you can tell within Mr. Deity that
well, yeah, and we're just having such a good time shooting them. I'm having less of a good time because I'm trying to direct them as well, which is very hard. I mean, we ended up shooting the first episode 3 times because I had to learn the art of directing while being in front of the camera, and I still find it the most difficult thing to do. It's very hard for me. I don't have as much fun as Jimbo and Sean and Lucy, but I still have a good time.
For Mr. Deity, you do the directing, you do the shooting, you do the editing, and you also do the scoring on that.
Yes, and the writing. I'm the writer on all of these as well. Yeah, it's I'm trying to be the white Robert Rodriguez. That's my goal in life now here. It's there's not much scoring though, to be honest. I did the opening theme song, and then I did the little song, which is just it's a bossa nova version of the original song. And that's about all that's done. The end title song is actually not mine. That's a piece of music that I bought. So I do own the rights to use it, but I didn't do that. It's a nice big band number, and it's a terrific little piece.
So did you write all the scripts yourself, or did you work with others to develop it?
Yeah, the way we do it is I write the script, and then when we get together to shoot these, we kind of work it through, because you can really tell, basically we have like a little page, and then you can tell what's working, what's not, and we figure out how to make it work as we go along. And then, there's quite a bit of ad-libbing that goes on. We'll throw stuff in, and sometimes it makes it, sometimes it doesn't. So that's the process. It's very structured, but there's a lot of freedom.
What are some of the problems or issues that you've encountered while producing these webisodes?
Well, you're almost always your biggest problem in shooting anything, unless you're doing a single shot of a single person, is continuity. So you always run up against continuity problems, where if it's an over-the-shoulder, for instance, and my arm is up this way, and then you have to cut to me, and my arm is not up, it looks awkward. And those are always the problems you have in any kind of production like that. Other problems are sound. You get sound problems that can haunt you. The biggest problem for me is that during a take, I will think, I want to direct him in this way, but I don't want to stop the take. So I'll let it go thinking, I'll direct him once we break, and then by the time we break, I've forgotten what I wanted to say until the next take, and then I don't start the take again. So it's just so difficult trying to do it all yourself, and it would be great to have. We don't really have anybody else helping us. I generally hit record and run to my mark, and there we go. That's it. We're shooting.
Where do you do your principal photography at? Down in the Los Angeles area?
It's Jimbo and I live in Temecula, California, which is about 70 miles southeast of LA, and Sean lives in Burbank, and Lucy, Amy, lives in Valencia, and her episodes we shoot in Valencia because she's a mom with kids, and can't get all the way out here 130 miles away to shoot an episode when she's got to pick her kids up at 2 o'clock. So I always go to her for our episodes, and that's why you really haven't seen the four of us together yet. We're trying to work that out.
Well, not to move away too much from Mr. Deity, you also did a production called 15 Minutes Later, and I was able to watch the trailer on that, and I love the concept of it. It was just hilarious on what was going. Can you just tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, 15 Minutes Later hasn't actually been shot. 15 Minutes Later is the remake that we want to do of my first movie called Killing the Dream, which won the Grand Jury Award here at the Temecula Valley International Film Festival.
Brian, I'd like to thank you for coming on the show. How can people get hold of you or see Mr. Deity?
Well, they can go to MrDeity.com, which is MrDeity.com, and they can drop me a line at Mr. Deity, MrDeity, at MrDeity.com.
And you can also watch this on YouTube, correct?
Yeah, MrDeity.com will take you directly to the YouTube links if you want to do it that way.
All right, thanks, Brian. We'll have you on the show again soon with the rest of the cast members from Mr. Deity.
Great. Thank you very much.